Once that I finish a film, I never see it again. Television is about killing time. It's like you're doing a film, but it's just very long. If I hold the shot, people watching this show are going to check their messages.
Wired sat down with the Oscar-winning director Alfonso Cuarón to talk about the language of cinema and TV and how they intersect. This is The Big Interview. Every time I've seen a movie of yours, I've associated with this feeling of claustrophobia, I guess. And whether it's a physical kind of claustrophobia, like you moving the camera into Sandra Bullock's helmet in Gravity, or if it's emotional kind of claustrophobia, the world closing in around you, like in Disclaimer. And I was wondering if that's a feeling you try to chase in your projects.
First of all, I apologize for making you feel like that.
It is kind of a dramatic device that's very effective.
Oh, I'm glad, I guess. But, it's the first time I even think, I've been confronted with this. So
Right.
maybe it's a byproduct of what I do or I did, but it was not like a conscious decision. Once that I finish a film, I never see it again. So it's out of the audiences to make a meaning of it.
Is there something uniting all these projects that you...
That I don't know, but more than anything, that's a limitation, I guess.
Oh.
I would think so.
Why would you say that?
Maybe a problem I have is that I have very eclectic taste in cinema. I grew up loving Poseidon Adventure or Planet of the Apes or Soylent Green.
All great movies.
I know, they're great, but at the same time, I love Bergman and I love Tarkovsky and I love Sukhorov. Most of these filmmakers, what they have in common is that this kind of one same kind of idea that they keep on developing and keep on developing film after film. You can see everything that unifies Bergman or Fellini, or even Kurosawa with how diverse his obra is. And I haven't been able to do that. I feel, once that I finish a film, I just want to explore different realms.
That's really interesting that you say you haven't been able to. It's because... Have you tried? Is there something? Is there something to even seek?
No, I haven't even tried.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, some films you do because you make conscious choices.
Yeah.
Some films you do to survive.
Right.
Others, like come out and save your life. I have to wait for films to come to me. And anytime that I've been trying to seriously plan to do a specific film, I end up not doing that film and end up doing something else.
And it's interesting that you mentioned Soylent Green and Planet of the Apes on the one hand and Tarkovsky and Bergman on the other, because I think this is one of my other theories about you, is that there's something you do where you kind of marry the cinematic aesthetic of Bergman and Tarkovsky, but you do it with adaptations of material that might be called mass market almost. So like Disclaimer is an interesting case. It's like a summer beach read, it's like a thriller. Children of Men is a P.D. James book. Harry Potter is Harry Potter.
In the case of P.D. James, it was just like a one-page outline of what the book was about. And I thought, well, wow, this is brilliant, but I already have a film that I wanted to do in my head. So in that case, I made the conscious decision of not reading the book.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want it to sidetrack from what I was thinking. And then I've been tempted later on to read the book because people around me, they tell me it's great. They say it's quite different, but it's really great. When I did Children of Men, I wanted to understand the things that were going to form our 21st century.
Everything in Children of Men seems to be a little relevant these days.
Those things were happening then.
Yeah.
The thing is that we were living in this kind of bubble before.
Right.
Wow, now is what happened in Children of Men now is happening. No, it was happening before. Difference now is that it's coming closer to our backyard.
So you mentioned these interesting ways in which these projects come into your life. So tell me about Disclaimer. How did Disclaimer enter your life?
Long time ago. I think it's when Renee Knight published it. She sent me, I didn't know her, she sent me the manuscript. I saw a possibility, but I didn't know how to make it happen as a film. So time passed and she got in touch saying, hey, in case you're interested, the rights are available. There was a moment that I've been very intrigued about exploring the long format. And episodic TV gives you that opportunity. I enjoy series, many series. And all these series that I enjoy have amazing writing and amazing acting, but only a few have kind of a cinematic approach.
But what do you mean here by the cinematic approach? I'm curious to explore that.
Well, in the worst case, series are shows that you can watch with your eyes closed.
Okay.
And by the way, you have a great time. You can actually be doing things while you're watching your show. And that's the value and the amazing strength that series have taken in terms of the narrative. You know, and I have to say, narratively, they start doing way more interesting things than most of mainstream American films. And I was very intrigued. I wanted to, because I have never done anything overtly narrative.
Yeah, because I've noticed that even in Gravity or Children of Men, there's no tendency to give what they call exposition. You know, to explain, for example, why the human race is infertile or what happens in zero gravity. I mean, you just let the emotion lead first. Is that what you mean by sort of overtly narrative?
No, yes.
Okay.
The principle of film is time. How those images flow in time and what they convey and all the emotions that they convey in time. In order to do that, you have to surrender to that. And certain films, when you expand time, it's all about the experience itself of time and the silence of it, you know, and the space between time. In Hitchcock is the perfect example, is the suspense. You know, you are so aware of time because of the ticking clock that is going on. Hitchcock says, I don't care about the content. You know, I really don't care. I care about the form and the style. That's Hitchcock's point of view, you know, but I'm just saying that to exemplify how the language in cinema has a greater value and a greater weight in the end experience of a film.
Yeah.
You know, television, on the other hand, is about killing time. And I'm not saying all of them, but many series, they need to keep on moving just the narrative forward, you know, constantly. But even doing this show, I learned there were moments in which I realized, wow, if this was a film, I probably could get away with this. But I just know that if I hold the shot here, people watching this show are going to check their messages. You know what I mean?
Right.
In many ways, conventional narrative is all about, is like the enemy of time. Keep the flow. Don't even be aware of time.
Right.
If it's a good story, good narrative, sometimes 1 hour passed and you didn't realize that, you know, that it was over. I never done anything that this narrative, you know, like a strong narrative impulse. And I was very intrigued about doing it. I found it a big challenge.
There was this moment in Itu Mama También when the camera moves out of the car where the three people are there, and there's some kind of police and crime activity, and you kind of pan to that and you come back into the car, just to show that there's a much richer world out there.
The important thing in most of the films that I do is I'm very concerned about the relationship between the character and the environment.
Right.
You know, it's always the clash between the two. In Itu Mama También, it was a byproduct of that as well. You know, it's like, well, these guys are in their little stupid drama.
The bubble,
and they're cruising through a greater reality that is around them that they are oblivious. There are other filmmakers that they do that in an amazing way because the characters may leave and the camera just stays there with the environment for you to experience that environment without any action. You know, in Itu Mama También, in that example, there's an action going on.
Yes, that's right.
And in many times, there's no action. You just partake with the environment.
I saw Perfect Days, which is and that happens a lot. I mean, the main character drifts out of the scene a little bit, but the camera stays. Sometimes in an empty house, room, and it's just like a couple of beats, but it's just enough. And it's very quiet, but it's a great device.
That expanded time of Benders is not fighting with narrative. It's just another measurement of time.
Yeah.
In TVs, you know, there are examples that you can see that they have done it. Bergman did with Sins of a Marriage, The Kingdom, Lars von Trier's, Fassbinder with Alexander Platz, David Lynch with his Twin Peaks. Bruno Dumont with Le Petit Queen. And by the way, don't get me wrong, so many of the shows, they have amazing cinematic moments.
Right.
But they are not consistent throughout the whole. It's hard to have like a strong directorial point of view from A to Z. Mm-hmm. Part of the nature of most shows is that you have different directors doing different episodes. The great shows, they know how to do very well. I think that Bear has amazing examples of that as well. Or Barry.
Yeah.
They establish a style, and then the different filmmakers come to honor that style throughout the whole thing. Right. And the thing is that when you're directing, and in the case of the irresponsible action that I took to direct 7 episodes, it's like you're doing a film, but it's just very long. And what happens is when you're doing a film, every decision you're doing in the first frame, you start thinking about the repercussion that it's going to have in these other moments. Great showrunners do that because they're very conscientious of to give a follow-up.
Alfonso, it's been such a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to watch Disclaimer.
This has been a good conversation. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.